Good morning, guys. I want to talk to you about shifting your reality to it today. And I want to talk about it in a way that might be a little bit different from what you're used to seeing. So, if you watch people like Bashar, if you watch people like Abraham Hicks, I just want to explain it to you from a way of psychology that might be a little bit different than what you're ever used to. So, if you have a hard time jumping from create your reality and just moving from a space of you know, Delulu is the Salulu, which you hear a lot, or hey, listen, I'm rich. I was poor, now I'm rich. I'm just going to hang out in that space. I just want to give you a couple of steps to the way that I do it. I do it from a standpoint of psychology. So I use my everyday choices in life and I basically split them into three decisions as to what choice I want to make. And I move forward from there. So let's say I'm trying to create my reality and I'm trying to shift into a different space. And I want to use making money as an example because I think a lot of people, when they think about creating their reality, they think about making money and wanting to make money. So let's say that you're starting a business, you're starting an online business. Every time you go to make a decision as to what you want to do to create that next step, when you hear Bashar or Abraham Hicks talk about it, they say, just make the decision that feels best. Like, do the thing that feels best. Do the thing that brings you the most joy. In my case, I do the thing that scares me just a little bit. So, wherever I see fear lie, if I'm sitting and I'm allowing a thought process to come to me and I'm in active meditation or whatever that you may call it, and I have an idea for my business that comes up. Let's say it's time for you to start doing lives. This is a good example. It's time for you to be live. It's time for you to start talking with people. It's time for you to start interacting with people. And the first thought that comes up to me is like, no, I'm not ready for that. I don't want to do that. Then the first thing I know is that's the space I need to go because that's the thing that's going to create a different reality for me. Because if I'm doing the same thing over and over again, and repeating it, like I'm refusing to do the lives because I'm too scared or I don't like to talk on live or I don't like the way I look, whatever the scenario is, then I'm going to have the same result because I'm not expanding. I'm not pushing myself. I'm not growing out of the space that I've been in. So if the idea to me becomes it's time to do lives, it's time to push yourself out there, it's time to show who you are more, then I think I have three choices. I can completely ignore this and I can stop doing things to try to expand my business, and the business is going to die off. And I know I don't want to do that. I can not do the live and I could just keep myself busy with busy work. I could just ignore the thing that my intuition or my higher self is saying, this is the next step as to growing. And I'm going to get the same things. I'm going to be in the same space. I'm probably going to have the same amount of viewers. I'm probably going to have the same amount of interaction, same amount of views on my video. But if the new thing that's being introduced into my consciousness is going to make me grow, going to make me change, and probably give me an opportunity to see that growth where nothing else I've ever done is giving me the opportunity to see growth, then I know I have to choose that. And because there's a little bit of fear behind it, there's a little bit of that nervousness as to I don't want to do that. I don't want to have to do that next step. The very first thing that I do in that case is start what I call trauma triggering, and I talk about it on my website. It's one of the services that I offer for my own business, which is there's trauma in there that is showing me that I'm too scared to do lives, and I have to figure out what that trauma is. And maybe that trauma is that I'm too afraid to be seen by people. Maybe that trauma is I'm too afraid to have feedback, negative or positive feedback, mostly negative. Most people wouldn't be afraid of positive feedback. So it could be that I'm too scared to have enough faith in myself to be able to talk nonstop about a subject, to feel like I have the authority to talk on a subject nonstop. Imposter syndrome, if you will. So I really start breaking down that thing that just triggered me. And I say to myself, like, why am I too scared to do this? And I start working through that experience. For me, the easiest way to do it is to journal. I like to self journal because I don't like to dump or unload all my problems on another person. And sometimes I do. Sometimes I have really good friends that I'll just message them and I'll be like, "Hey, this is the next step and I know it is, but I'm too scared to do it. What is this? Walk me through it with me." And I have friends that can do that. But a lot of times I'll just start journaling and I'll start auto writing. And if you've never heard of auto writing, it's literally just sitting down and starting out with an open question like, why am I scared to do live streaming? And just start seeing what comes off of the pen, seeing what comes through when you're sitting down and writing with no rhyme or reason. I don't go back and look at what I wrote. I just keep writing. And 100% of the time that I have done this, I start writing into an old memory where something negative happened to me, where something hurt me, where something caused that trauma to prevent me from having enough self esteem to be like, okay, this is the next step I'm going to take. And once I figure out what that issue is, I can then logically start to rationalize it. I can logically say to myself, you know what? That happened a long time ago. That's not something that's happening currently. I don't have to worry about this now. I'm different. I've changed. I've grown. I'm educated on the subject. Whatever I need to say in order to rationalize that and make it feel um, good internally so that I can take one more step towards then doing that live stream, the thing that scares me. So you can take this logical way of thinking. I call it a three-way split. You can take this logical way of thinking and you can apply it to anything that you want to manifest in your life and think of it as taking one step closer to the thing that you want. Because if I then take a step closer to doing that live stream and I overcome that fear, my next logical step is going to be that wasn't so bad. It wasn't the greatest. I didn't have thousands of viewers or whatever the scenario may be. I may not even have interacted with anybody, but I stepped over that layer of fear and now it opens me to be able to doing it more and more and more. And the more you get your courage, the more you have the ability to think about what you want to say, to be who you want to be the authentic version of yourself. And that shifts your personality. So you now have stepped into a different timeline, period. Now you have a choice after that because we're shifting all the time, right? And when you talk about Bashar or Abraham Hicks or anybody that talks about timeline shifting, they'll tell you we're shifting consistently all the time. It's like a flip book. We're walking through frames. So now that you've shifted and changed who you are because you've learned something new, you've learned about a traumatic trigger that you've had, you've addressed the trigger, you're overcoming it. You've fundamentally changed who you are. You're not the same person that you were before you took that step to do that thing that brought you a little bit of fear, but also brought you the happiness, also brought you the satisfaction, also brought you a knowing that you did something, you accomplished it, whether you think it's good or bad, you still accomplished it. You've grown, you've changed, you've now moved into a side step or a side timeline. Now you have a choice to stay there, cruise in that one, learn the things that you have to learn, allow what's going to come to you, follow those steps, and then keep moving forward on that timeline until you get that inkling to move again, to shift again. Or you can be scared enough to say, I didn't like that. That wasn't for me. I failed. I didn't do well. I'm going to stay where I'm comfortable. And you shift right back down into your old timeline where you were. So you can logically also make decisions as to where you want to move and how you want to get there. And I'm not saying that it's not frustrating over time. I'm not saying that there's not good and bad, as we call it. But that's where you also learn how to tune into your emotions so that when things are happening to you, your reaction can be controlled because your reaction and your choices or your thoughts create your reality. So when the things that you don't like let's use this example of live streaming, If I have no viewers at all and I have no interactions whatsoever, I can have an emotional reaction to that after I close the live out, right? I can sit and think to myself, this was horrible. No one watched, no one cared, no one wanted to hear what I had to say. I could cry, I could be upset. I'm therefore charging that situation with a lower frequency or a lower level emotion. Okay. So I'm creating everything from that space, which means it's also going to put me in a space of, I don't want to do this again. I don't want to put myself out there again. So you're creating from multiple different views, if that makes sense, your emotions, your thoughts, your choices. Now, if I do that same thing and I think to myself, you know what, there was no viewers on my live, no one interact with me. However, I did it. I made it through it. I talked about things that I knew. I'm proud of the fact that I didn't turn it off and stop recording myself. I'm proud of the fact that I did something new. I'm okay talking to nobody because then there was nobody there to judge me. If I look at it from a perspective where I have a non emotional reaction and I think I can then do this again, and I'm going to upload the video and see what happens. And then as I'm watching it, I can recognize over the next 24 to 48 hours, hey, I had 10 viewers on that video. That video didn't even exist before. It didn't exist before my live. Now I have 10 views. Is 10 views a lot? No, not to people who are like, I really want to be out there and huge. But if you're doing this because it's emanating from inside of your soul, if you're doing it because you know this is something you should be doing and you want to be doing because you love it and enjoy it, and this is where that Bashar information comes in. Like, you do the thing that you love, you do the thing that you enjoy, you do the thing that you want to create for others. And that's what brings that reality to you. If you can rationalize and take the emotion out of every situation that happens and say, I did this because I want to share this with people and I want other people to be able to do what I do. And not everybody can just hear one certain person talk, and they need different perspectives. So my perspective is important. And even if it helps one person, it helps one person. Then you're doing it from a non-emotional standpoint and you keep cruising on that next timeline, because then you set yourself up for, okay, I'm going to do this again. All right, I'm gonna do it one more time. It doesn't matter if anybody's watching because I'm not doing this for all of the views. I'm doing this for the ability to help someone else get to a space where I am and learn what I've learned. So it's about your emotion, how you react to your situations. It's about where you're coming from, why you're doing it. It's about making the choice of which one is going to shift you into a different reality. And then it's about following through on that track. Do I want to stay on this new reality? Do I want to not? Do I want to go back to just working on paperwork and, keeping myself busy, stay in the track that I was just on before I pushed myself to do something new? Or do I want to scrap this altogether because I'm too emotional and I don't like the way that it's turning out and it's not giving me the exact result that I want in the moment, and I'm done with this and walk away from it all? So split it into 3 different timelines in front of you and look and see where your decision will take you. And that might give you a better grasp of how to make a decision and how to shift and move into another timeline. And each time you move into a new timeline, you see that you're interacting differently with people. You see that you have new ideas from people. You see that maybe you messaged somebody because you're in that new timeline now and you're like, hey, I did a live for the first time, and you get feedback from your friend and they give you support in a way that makes you feel like I should do this again. That's your new timeline. That's how you shift. So let me know if this helps you. If this has rung true to you in any way, if this makes sense to you in any way, please don't forget to like the video, subscribe to my channel. I'm moving all my information over from TikTok right now, so there's going to be a lot of info on here, but I'll be going live talking about more of this, and I'll be sharing way more on TikTok or here on YouTube than on my TikTok account. If you're interested in my TikTok account, it's NJ Wellness. It has about 70,000 followers right now, just to make sure you find the right one. But please, guys, subscribe to the channel here, like the video so that it gets pushed out. I would really appreciate that. And let me know if any of this worked for you, or let me know if this made sense to you at all. Take care of you.